Strangers laugh. He suffers. This conformity, this pattern repeats globally. Viral videos expose how easily dignity surrenders to belonging. In one Brazilian city, a man is forced to eat spicy food in front of strangers. His face contorted in pain as the crowd cheers. The humiliation is real, yet the crowd's approval feels like a drug. Psychologists call this phenomenon the hive mind effect. When people gather, an invisible force takes over. Individual thoughts dissolve into collective agreement. The crowd doesn't just watch. It demands conformity. In one viral clip, a woman is shamed for wearing the wrong outfit to a party. Her confidence shattered in seconds. But why does this happen? Science reveals that anonymity is the catalyst. When faces are hidden, whether in online forums or masked protests, the brain's self-awareness dims. Studies show a statistical spike in conformity when individuals feel untraceable. In one experiment, participants in hooded robes were far more likely to deliver painful electric shocks to strangers than those wearing identifiable clothing. This isn't just theory. In everyday life, the phenomenon is everywhere. At work, employees mimic their boss's quirks, even the absurd ones, just to fit in. On social media, trends spread like wildfire, with people adopting bizarre challenges without question. The pressure to conform isn't just social. It's psychological, hardwired into how we process belonging. But how does this play out in real time? Take the case of a college campus where freshmen are subjected to initiation rituals. Some as harmless as drinking coffee together, others as extreme as public humiliation. The line between harmless tradition and psychological manipulation blurs. One study found that 70% of participants in such rituals reported feeling pressured to comply, even when they privately disagreed. The psychological cost of conformity is often invisible until it isn't. Take the story of a young woman who refused to participate in her workplace's Fun Friday dress-up day, only to be ostracized for weeks. Her manager later admitted it was just a joke. But the damage to her confidence lingered. This isn't about jokes. It's about power dynamics disguised as camaraderie. The internet amplifies this effect exponentially. Online forums, comment sections, and social media algorithms create echo chambers where conformity isn't just encouraged. It's rewarded. A single viral post can turn a fringe opinion into mainstream truth overnight. The crowd's voice isn't just loud. It's inescapable, drowning out individual thought. But why do we do this to ourselves? Evolutionary psychologists argue that conformity is a survival mechanism. Blending in reduces the risk of being ostracized or attacked. Yet in modern society, this instinct often backfires. The cost of fitting in isn't just social, it's cognitive. Our brains prioritize harmony over truth, even when the truth is painful. Consider the case of a high school where students were encouraged to report unpopular classmates for disrupting the peace. The result? A cascade of accusations, friendships shattered, and a school atmosphere choked by fear. The line between safety and tyranny was crossed, yet no one questioned it, until it was too late. The phenomenon isn't just about groups, it's about the power of suggestion. A single influential person can sway an entire room. In one viral video, a man in a suit walks into a crowded bar and starts clapping for a particular song. Within minutes, the entire bar joins in, their individuality dissolved into collective approval. The crowd didn't choose the song. The man did. This isn't just a psychological quirk. It's a vulnerability. The same mechanisms that make us conform also make us susceptible to manipulation. From political propaganda to corporate branding, the tools of conformity are everywhere. The question isn't whether we'll conform, it's how we'll recognize when we're being manipulated, and how we'll resist. The paradox of conformity is this: we obey absurdity because we believe it's the only way to belong. Yet belonging isn't about fitting in. It's about authenticity. The next time you find yourself laughing at a joke you don't get or agreeing with something you don't believe, ask yourself, why am I doing this? In a dimly lit psychology lab at Swarthmore College, one man stands alone. His task? A simple line judgment test. But this isn't ordinary. This is where the modern study of conformity was born. Solomon Asch, a Polish-born psychologist, designed this experiment in 1951. His goal? To measure how far people would bend to group pressure, even when the truth was glaringly obvious. Participants were shown a card with one long line and three others. The task was straightforward. Pick which of the three matched the original. But here's the twist. Everyone but the subject was an actor, giving deliberately wrong answers. Imagine seeing the clearest evidence with your own eyes, yet hesitating, then watching others nod in agreement. The pressure to conform becomes a physical weight. Asch's subjects felt this. 75% of them gave the wrong answer at least once. The numbers don't lie. 3 out of every 4 people would abandon their own senses to align with a group. This wasn't about stupidity. It was about the mind's desperate need to belong, even when faced with undeniable truth. But Asch didn't stop there. He wanted to understand what made people crack under pressure, and what could make them resist. So he tweaked the experiment. Smaller groups, fewer wrong answers. Let's see what happened next. First, Asch reduced the group size to just 2 actors. The compliance rate plummeted to around 20%. 2 voices were enough to sway a person. But 3 or more created an unstoppable force. The majority effect was real. Next, Asch introduced an ally, a participant who gave the correct answer first. Suddenly, the compliance rate dropped to around 10%. One voice of reason could shift the entire dynamic. It showed that dissent wasn't just possible. It was contagious. But what if the group wasn't unanimous? Asch found that when just one person disagreed with the majority, the pressure on the subject lessened dramatically. It wasn't just about numbers, it was about the perception of safety in dissent. Asch's work revealed something chilling. The mind isn't wired to resist group pressure by default. It's wired to seek approval, to avoid standing out, and we're constantly connected. That pressure is everywhere, from social media to the workplace. So here's the question. If 75% of people would abandon truth for conformity in a lab, what happens when the stakes are higher? When the group isn't just strangers, but friends, family, or even strangers online? Asch's experiment was just the beginning. In the next scene, we'll explore how Asch's findings have been weaponized in modern times, from corporate culture to political rallies. But first, let's ask ourselves, how many times have we conformed without even realizing it? By the way, if you like this discussion, don't forget to subscribe. There are many more interesting topics coming up. Lightbulb. Asch's subjects didn't just answer questions wrong. They doubted their own eyes, they questioned their own judgment, and in doing so, they revealed a fundamental truth about human nature. We are wired to conform, but we are also wired to resist. Imagine if every time you felt the urge to conform, you paused and asked yourself, is this really what I believe, or am I just afraid of standing out? That simple question could change everything. It's a question that Asch's experiment left us with, one that we're still grappling with today. But what if the pressure to conform isn't just about lines on a card? What if it's about beliefs, identities, and even lives? As we dive deeper into Asch's legacy, we'll uncover how his work has shaped everything from social media algorithms to political movements. In the end, Asch's experiment wasn't just about lines. It was about the fragile balance between truth and conformity, the line we walk every single day. And that line is thinner than we think. Inside every human skull lies a silent battle between 2 forces. One demanding truth, the other whispering agree. The anterior cingulate cortex, our brain's conflict detector, lights up like a warning beacon when faced with obvious lies. Yet, when surrounded by others, its signals grow faint. This is how conformity hijacks our judgment before we even realize it. Imagine standing in a crowded room where everyone laughs at a joke you know is terrible. Your brain's anterior cingulate cortex fires, screaming, "This is wrong." But the surrounding faces, the shared laughter, drown out that voice. This isn't weakness, it's a neural trade-off. The brain prioritizes social harmony over individual truth when the cost of dissent feels too high. Scientists have mapped this neural shift with precision. Functional MRI studies reveal that when individuals conform to group pressure, activity in the medial prefrontal cortex, the brain's self-referential hub plummets. This isn't just about thinking less. It's about feeling less like yourself. The more anonymous the crowd, the more this region shuts down, leaving you vulnerable to suggestion. But why does the brain crave this surrender? The answer lies in the body's oldest survival mechanism. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, floods the system when we align with others. It doesn't just make us feel connected, it makes us need to be connected. Meanwhile, dopamine surges with every shared agreement, reinforcing the behavior like a chemical reward system. The more we conform, the more our brains are wired to repeat it. This isn't just theory. It's been tested in real-time experiments. Participants in group settings, when given the choice between truth and conformity, consistently opt for the latter, even when the truth is undeniable. The brain's default setting isn't to think critically. It's to fit in. And once that switch is flipped, the cost of dissent becomes unbearable, even if it means sacrificing your own convictions. Here's the terrifying part. This isn't just about peer pressure in high school. It's a fundamental flaw in how human brains are wired. The same neural pathways that once kept us safe in tribal societies now make us susceptible to manipulation in every modern crowd. From social media echo chambers to corporate culture rituals, our brains weren't designed for this level of anonymity and scale. The anterior cingulate cortex isn't the only region playing a role here. The insula, our body's internal compass, also dims its signals when we're in a crowd. It's as if the brain is saying, forget about how you feel, just do what they do. This isn't about intelligence. It's about survival instincts hijacked by modern social structures. The question isn't whether we're wired to conform, it's how we can rewire ourselves to resist. Consider this. The next time you find yourself laughing at a joke that doesn't land, or agreeing with a statement you know is false, your brain isn't just being silly, it's engaging in a centuries-old survival tactic. The same neural pathways that once kept early humans from being ostracized from their tribe are now being exploited by algorithms, corporations, and even political movements. The line between protection and manipulation is thinner than you think. The brain's default setting isn't to think critically, it's to fit in. This isn't a flaw. It's an evolutionarily hardwired response. But what if we could hack this system? What if we could train our brains to recognize when conformity is being used against us? The key lies in understanding the neural mechanics at play. Once we see how our minds are tricked, we can start to fight back. Imagine a world where you could see the invisible threads pulling people into conformity, where every time you agreed with a crowd, your brain lit up with a warning. This isn't you. That's the power of understanding the brain mechanics behind conformity. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about recognizing when your mind is being played, and then choosing whether to resist or adapt. The choice is yours, but the first step is seeing the game. The brain's neural pathways aren't set in stone. They can be reshaped, rewired, and retrained. The question is whether we'll choose to do the work. Because while conformity might feel like the easy path, it's also the path that leaves us vulnerable to manipulation, exploitation, and the slow erosion of our individuality. The alternative? Awareness. The alternative is seeing the game, understanding the mechanics, and then choosing to play it differently. What if the key to resisting conformity isn't about being stronger, it's about being smarter? What if understanding how your brain works is the ultimate defense mechanism? The next time you find yourself surrendering to the crowd, ask yourself, is this really me? Or is this just my brain's old survival instinct playing tricks? The answer might just change everything. In the modern era, algorithmic echo chambers have become sophisticated tools for creating artificial majorities, where individuals are subtly influenced to conform to the collective opinion. These artificial majorities are often created through the strategic manipulation of information, where individuals are presented with a curated selection of facts and opinions that reinforce the collective narrative. Corporate culture fit rituals have also been co-opted to mimic the pressure for conformity seen in Ash's line study, where individuals are forced to conform to the majority opinion, often at the expense of their own autonomy. Moreover, political rallies and online mobs have weaponized de-individuation, a psychological state where individuals lose their sense of self and become part of a faceless, anonymous crowd, to suppress dissent and silence opposing voices. This phenomenon highlights the darker aspects of human psychology, where individuals are willing to sacrifice their autonomy and individuality for the sake of conformity, often at the behest of powerful institutions and ideologies. However, there are ways to resist this conformity, to reclaim our autonomy and individuality, and to promote a culture of dissent and critical thinking. In the next chapter, we will explore the mechanisms of the brain that contribute to this conformity, and the ways in which we can design our environment to promote critical thinking and autonomy. But for now, we must confront the darker aspects of human psychology, and the ways in which we can resist this conformity to reclaim our autonomy and individuality. The question remains, how can we balance our desire for belonging and social connection with our need for autonomy and individuality? The answer lies in the complex interplay between our social and individual selves, and the ways in which we can cultivate a sense of autonomy and individuality in a world that often values conformity over dissent. But for now, we must continue to explore the complexities of human psychology, and the ways in which we can resist this conformity to reclaim our autonomy and individuality. And so, we will continue to push the boundaries of human knowledge, to explore the complexities of human psychology, and to find ways to resist this conformity, to reclaim our autonomy and individuality. The journey continues, and the question remains, how can we balance our desire for belonging and social connection with our need for autonomy and individuality? The answer lies in the complex interplay between our social and individual selves, and the ways in which we can cultivate a sense of autonomy and individuality in a world that often values conformity over dissent. And so, we will continue to explore the complexities of human psychology, to find ways to resist this conformity, and to reclaim our autonomy and individuality. In a dimly lit university lecture hall, a professor stands before a sea of blank faces. His voice drops to a deliberate whisper as he begins to explain how our minds betray us in the name of belonging. The air hums with unspoken tension. Everyone here knows the cost of standing alone. Tonight, we uncover the tools to reclaim your autonomy. Meet Sarah, a software engineer who once nodded along with absurd office jokes, laughing louder than she felt. Her brain had trained itself to prioritize harmony over honesty. But one day, she realized her laughter was a script she'd memorized, the first step to breaking free. Recognizing the cues before they hijack your thoughts. Psychologists call it cognitive reappraisal, the art of reframing social pressure as a signal, not a command. When your brain screams, everyone else is laughing, so you must be wrong. You intercept that thought and ask, is this really about me, or about fitting in? The key lies in pausing before reacting, turning silence into a superpower. But how do you train your brain to notice these moments? Start small. Before agreeing with a group's joke or trend, jot down your real thought in a private notebook. Over time, this habit sharpens your ability to distinguish between your voice and the chorus. It's like building a muscle for dissent. One private dissent at a time. Imagine walking into a room where everyone is laughing at a joke you find offensive. Your heart races, but this time you pause. You recall your private note. This joke is sexist. Instead of laughing, you smile politely and say, that's an interesting take. The room doesn't explode because you didn't give it fuel. Small, deliberate choices rewire the script. The environment you inhabit shapes your compliance almost as much as your own mind. Anonymity in crowds amplifies conformity. Think of online trolls or rioters wearing masks. But in diverse spaces, where perspectives clash, your brain engages in active processing. Design your world to be a mosaic, not a monolith. Seek out voices that challenge, not confirm, your beliefs. Social media algorithms are modern-day Ash experiments, feeding you echo chambers where agreement is currency, but you can disrupt the cycle. Follow accounts that represent opposing views. Even if they make you uncomfortable, the goal isn't to change minds immediately, but to expose your brain to the idea that there are other valid perspectives. This alone weakens the hive mind's grip. Anonymity is the silent architect of conformity. In a mob, faces blur into a faceless crowd, and individual accountability vanishes. But in the real world, names and faces make dissent costly, but only if you let them. The next time you're in a group, ask yourself, who am I to this group? If the answer is vague, you're already half conformed. Anchor yourself in your identity beyond the crowd. Consider the story of a man who walked into a room where his colleagues were mocking a coworker's idea. He could have joined in, but instead, he said, "I respect that you're passionate, but I disagree." His words weren't met with silence. They were met with curiosity. People don't hate dissent. They hate the lack of it. Your silence is often the loudest compliance of all. Autonomy isn't about being right all the time. It's about choosing when to speak, when to listen, and when to stand apart. It's the quiet courage to say, "I see you, but I won't follow blindly." This isn't rebellion. It's the foundation of a life lived on your own terms. The world needs more people who dissent privately before they speak publicly. But what if the system itself is designed to make dissent feel impossible? What happens when the very tools meant to connect us are weaponized to silence? In the next chapter, we'll explore how modern institutions exploit these same psychological triggers, and how you can outsmart them before they outsmart you. Are you ready to see the dark side of conformity? This isn't about becoming a lone wolf. It's about understanding the tools of the hive mind, and using them to protect what's uniquely yours. The next time you're faced with a choice between fitting in and standing out, remember, your brain is the last frontier of free will. Will you let it be hijacked, or will you reclaim it? The battle for autonomy begins now. Every time you pause before agreeing, every time you seek out diverse perspectives, every time you refuse to let anonymity erase your voice, you're rewriting the script. The question isn't can you stand apart, it's will you? What is the dark truth behind this event? Share your theory below and watch our next investigation. Hi there! If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe. Smiling face with smiling eyes, subscribe now before the next video. We have a special upload tomorrow. High voltage.